Good morning, everybody. Shift your mindset here with a new episode. Watchtower lies further exposed. This time, again, in a court case. What's the case? Joseph Fitzgerald Hall, with name and everything. You see the picture on the thumbnail of this Jehovah Witness who molested someone who was a child years ago. But why is this important? Let's find out. Because this man was serving in various administrative roles for the Jehovah Witnesses. He molested a child whom he met while working for the Jehovah Witnesses in New Orleans. So, what's the case? The case is that Hall met Barry Davis, the victim, when he was young. What was the case? He was working together with him. He promised him at 12 years old, 11 years old, that he would mold him into the congregation and be one of the next leaders of that congregation if that boy listened properly. And that's how they operate. That's how they do it. They sneak up onto you. He was a ministerial servant. Later on, he was an elder. And you see a lot of people who are now having court cases in this segment had some authority within the Jehovah Witnesses. That's the problem also with Jehovah Witnesses. They listen to authority. They listen to the elders. They listen to people who have higher ranks than themselves in that congregation. Automatically, people, the rank and file, the normal publishers, see someone, if they are a ministerial servant or an elder, as good people, as people who they trust. We see a lot of naive couples who easily give their children away under the care of a ministerial servant or an elder because they are spiritual, advanced people. They have good behavior because you need to meet certain requirements for becoming a ministerial servant or an elder. One of them is a good conduct, a man of one wife, has his family in place, takes the lead in the ministry, knows a bit more than the normal people about the procedures, about the Bible scriptures. They give talks, they can educate, they can teach. So they are automatically more trusted than other people in the congregation. What I saw in the whole history of my road, my journey in the Jehovah Witnesses, that they give easier a child in ministry to a ministerial servant or an elder. They trust them more than that they let them work with a normal publisher, because they're not that spiritual yet. So it's always how they operate is building trust to get near a child. And the ranks do the job in the Jehovah Witness religion. So, he exploited his position as a ministerial servant and later on as an elder within the congregation to get close to Davis. Davis is the victim. He held private Bible studies with him, brought him along as he proselytized proselytized to potential new converts, ministry, and shared religious articles from the Watchtower Society with him. So he took advantage of that boy. There was abuse from 1990 to 1996, 6 years, and it was beginning when the boy was only 11 years old. That boy, Barry Davis, I call him with his name because he is a hero. Not only now, but already back in the days then. Because he disclosed the abuse to his mother, single parent, along with an elder at the congregation in 1998. The elder initiated a judicial committee. Elders who formed that committee heard Davis deliver an account of the molestation that he endured at the hands of that Hall guy, Fitzgerald Hall. They disfellowshipped Hall for 11 months. He was suspended from the congregation, and then he was allowed to return. But, and that's the strange thing in this lawsuit, they added that the committee instructed Davis, the victim, to repent and quit his homosexual life. What? Of course, we know all what's happening then. He was prohibited from carrying the microphone, as it's a privilege, working behind the literature counter, or leading trips to go into ministry. And what is interesting in this lawsuit is that they ordered the victim to cooperate with the Jehovah's Witnesses in keeping it a secret, because it would impugn the organization if it got out. And now we're back to what's normal in the Jehovah's Witnesses is in that era. I'm not gonna say something about these years, 2020, 2025, but everything, anytime it's coming back, that they ordered him to not speak about that person. They want to keep it a secret. And why is that bad? This case is an example, textbook example of what is going wrong from that point. Because Davis left the organization after a lot of harassment from the Jehovah's Witnesses. He reached out to the lawyer, and now he's starting that court case against that whole guy. And why is it a bad thing? Because why is he doing this? Because he and his wife and his son, the one who was the ministerial servant who abused the kid, had belonged to an organization now, to a congregation in Charlotte. So he moved to another congregation. And that's typical for those abusers. They get disfellowshipped in the congregation, it's kept a secret, and because it's kept as a secret, if you move to another congregation, that whole congregation in Charlotte isn't aware that this man is convicted for child abuse by the organization, by the previous congregation, not in the police records, because they made sure that the victim kept his mouth shut. But that victim didn't keep his mouth shut. He told people about what that person had done to him. Then, because of that, he left the religion because it was a lot of harassment from the organization towards him. They cut your privileges, they badmouth you, and you are not compliant with it, and they are getting cornered. And then when someone is cornered, they can make funny jumps and they're gonna attack you. And that's what Watchtower did. So he left, but now he has the deposition. And he pled the Fifth Amendment 48 times. But eventually he admitted that this happened. And what is the problem? The problem is he moved a few years after the judicial committee. He moved to Charlotte with his wife and his son. So you are married to an abuser. Your son has a father who abused a kid. And I don't even know if that kid knew about it before this court case. But he was moving to Charlotte and he was considered what is known as a regular publisher. So he wasn't an elder anymore, but he was still a devoted member of the Jehovah's Witness organization. He regularly participated in organized preachings in his congregation. And who knows what harm he could have done in that period of time. We don't know if he ever did it again, but if you are regularly participating in the ministry, you are still in contact with children. Children, sometimes a mother comes to the ministry service, has 2 children, she can only work with one of them, so one is giving to somebody else who is attending in the ministry. And maybe someone was trusted to his care in ministry. And maybe he didn't learn anything about it. He didn't do his time. He only repented for the judicial committee, but everybody does that. The records were sealed. Everyone was ordered to shut up who was involved in the judicial committee. The victim was shut down by the elders to not talk about it. His mother, single parent, also ordered to shh. Everything was swept under the rug. And now we have a classic example of somebody who does a horrible thing and is moving to another congregation. And it can happen again. Maybe an elder or some elders knew about his records, maybe, but not always it has been forwarded to the next congregation. And if it's being forwarded to this congregation, there, like the victim says in this court case, nothing has changed. And that's true. You can now go to the police, but it's not a thing they always do, even now. It's not a rule, because the only rule they have is that you have to contact the branch. People, parents from the victim, can go to the police, but I think there's a lot of pressure and guilt involved if you do that. How the elders are looking at you after you do that. How the congregation is looking at you. It's a big, big burden on your shoulders to do. And even if it's the right thing to do, I think it's still a problem for a lot of people to actually go to the police station, because it's like turning to your own people. It's like ratting out, snitching on your own congregation. Your congregation, your elders, the abuser. It's gonna be an investigation. And a lot of people feel that pressure, that they don't want to be, that the congregation is put into a bad light. The spotlight is on your congregation when you go to the police, but it's the only right thing to do, and you have to do it. But more important is, if I was an elder and I had a case like this, I immediately go to the police, because it's their job to find out. I'm an elder. I'm here for spiritual advice. I can give someone scriptures. I can give someone a direction in how God sees something, in how Jesus is looking at situations. But I'm not an investigator. I'm not a detective. And we need a detective to sort out what was happening, when, what time, with who was involved, who not. Witnesses have to be heard. Were there any witnesses? Is it a plausible story? Is it true? What is our feeling about it? Detectives are trained to ask questions to determine if it's valid or not, if it's honest or not, if someone is trustworthy or making things up. They have the knowledge about that. Use that knowledge in your advantage as an organization. But no, Watchtower has a case. They disfellowshipped them only for 11 months. I know cases from people from adultery who were sitting on the back bench for 1.5, 2 years. They wrote letters to be reinstated, they ignored it, and they say, oh, let them suffer a little bit longer because they tore up a family. Or they left their wife and they go along with another pioneer in the congregation, stuff like that. They were on the backbench for more than 2 years. He was only disfellowshipped for 11 months. Then he could return. And then he had the nerves to be a good publisher and go into ministry and think, if I go into ministry enough, then Jehovah will forgive me. But Jehovah isn't forgiving you, because these are the sins, in my opinion, that's going against the Holy Spirit. I think back in the days you get stoned to death for doing something like this. Even less harsh things. You will be punished hard. But this is one of the things I think it's an unforgivable sin. In my opinion. Prove me wrong in the comments, people, if you have another opinion about it. I'm all about second chances, but some things, I don't think you can recover from that. I don't think you can recover from harming a boy's life for the rest of their life. I don't think you can make up for it. These are the things you can't wipe clean, like white satin sheets or whatever it's in the Bible. These stains, I think, are there for the rest of your life. And you will be judged accordingly, if there's a God who's going to judge, etc., if you believe in it. And I think a little bit in ministry won't solve this problem, because you didn't come forward, you were caught in the act, the victim goes to the elders, not you, so you have no remorse, no sorry. You're being caught, then you're being disfellowshipped, then you're being reinstated, and then you think, maybe a little bit too much heat here. I'm going from New Orleans to Charlotte, and I'm gonna start fresh, and I'm going further with my life. You have dishonored your wife, your son, the victims, everybody. It's a trail of disaster you're leaving behind. And what is Watchtower doing? Instead of throwing that one under the bus, no, a Watchtower Society lawyer is defending this case. Why? To protect the image of Watchtower. But there is no image to protect. Just say, these rules were not good. We didn't protect the child enough in the congregation. We put new laws in place. One of the laws is we're gonna rely on Caesar's authority. Just like we pay taxes, we also pay taxes to be protected by the police. But you can't use Caesar's authority. You can't use governments and lawyers for your advantage, but if it's not in your advantage, then suddenly it's worldly and we don't want anything to do with them. It's a two-way street. And admit that you are wrong, pay out that victim, and just change your laws, change your policies. Put the elders in charge, that they can go to the police if they want to do that they have to go to the police with every suspicion that rises in that congregation. Let people who are trained for it, not the window washers and Bob the Builders, but the people like detectives who have years of training, years of experience. They see so many cases and people in their lives as a cop, as a detective. They know when someone is lying. They know what to ask to get to the truth. Even if someone tries to lie, they can lure him into an honest answer and go forward with it. And say that one is moving, let the congregation know that there is someone between them who is arrested in the history for this, and this. That people are being warned. You don't have to call their names, but people are warned. The naive Jehovah's Witness parents, don't trust somebody even if they have a rank, because now when it's coming out and when you are calling the Catholic Church by names and they'll abuse this, abuse that, and the priests, you see, we don't have a Sunday school and we don't let them be near someone in private and stuff like that. The thing is, most of the cases, maybe 90%, maybe 99%, is from people who were elders, who were ministerial servants, had a position in Watchtower, and they couldn't take their hands off a little child. And that's disturbing. So this court case is a beautiful one. Big balls has Barry Davis to come forward. He came forward when it happened, and now he came forward again to the authorities to deal with this person. And it's only the best thing that could happen, because he confessed of the abuse without substantial consequence. And this man molested somebody but kept on working for the Jehovah's Witnesses nearly unimpeded. And he's moving and he's doing his thing, and that's what we see a lot is happening. They are somewhere and then they move to another congregation or another country, and nobody knows what's the history of these people. And Watchtower always tries to shut you up, shut you down, that you are instructed to be silent about it. That's the problem with the judicial committee. Only a few elders know, and they put pressure on you that it has to be confidential, that it has to stay between you and an elders. But this man was brave enough eventually to speak out, and now justice is being served. And let's hope more people speak out, more cases are coming to the surface, because then maybe we see that Watchtower is failing everybody in that organization to protect from harm. And we love children, and children are God's gift, etc., etc. Nice words, but those actions you take are not there for the interest of the vulnerable people in that religion. Let me know what you think about this, people. I hope more cases come to the surface and justice is being served. Thank you for watching. We see each other on the next episode.